Okay, so we have a starting point for competency-based course planning. And competencies, that can be a new concept for you, but when you sign up to teach on the data line, you're actually signing up to teach competencies. I'm sorry, I forgot both of your names.
I'm Steve and you're Ben.
Steve and Ben. And Ben, has your department chair shown you your competencies or how to access those? Does that sound familiar?
But I have some that I think I just adopted
from the other instructor? Okay.
No one's told me that those are correct or not correct, I guess.
Okay, I think it's worth our time just to clarify that you know where those are. So let me show you how to find your competencies. There's many different routes to go there. If you go to the college website, MesaCTL.edu, and click on class schedule, there's a menu button at the top there. And then your course is what?
It's PSY 215.
215. And then there will be a live link on the schedule. It doesn't matter who's teaching it. It's all the same course because competencies are district mandated, district curriculum. You click on that, it takes you to our district curriculum and transfer website. And then here there are modified versions. You want the most current one, which 1999 is the most current, but that's what you are signing up to teach. And here are your competencies. So you have 16 competencies in your course. Okay? So I'm going to share with you a competency from a course that I taught previously. I used to teach in the Education Studies department, which is great for me when I facilitate workshops because we all understand education. So it's a nice shared background discipline to do these workshops with. So one competency in that course is competency 3 is identify and explain the current issues confronting public education, including the legal and ethical concerns. So the great thing about competencies are they're fairly limited. Most courses have between 7 and 24 competencies that you have to teach over an 8 to 16 week period, depending on the duration of your course. Some of your competencies, when you look at them initially, you can chunk them together. You'll see that they're very similar concepts, and so you can chisel them down a little bit. But what you want to ensure is that when you design your course, that you're teaching all 16 of those. Okay? So when I look at this competency, what's nice about it is it gives me a lot of freedom in what I choose to teach that's relative to this. So this is a fairly broad concept, right? That my future teachers are going to identify and explain these current issues. It's also very low cognitive domain. So when we think of the Bloom's taxonomy and cognitive domains, to identify and explain is not really a big deal. So I could exceed this, but at the minimum, this is what my students need to do. Now, when I interpret and start thinking about how I want to teach this or put a unit or a module together or an assignment, I have to think about what do I actually want to teach them. So in your experiences with public education or as a parent or just understanding current events, what are some issues that we have right now in public schools? Current issues that include legal or ethical concerns. Just blurt out some ideas. School funding, huge. Performance. Which is kind of like the assessments, right? And in Arizona, do you know which ones we have? We do, our new test is called AZ Merit, okay? Which is quite controversial, right? AZ Merit, based on Common Core. In Arizona, we have the College and Career Readiness Standards. So those are all kind of legal issues for students. Another area that I think is pretty important for our future teachers is social media, right? Definitely implications for future teachers, for themselves, teachers getting hot water for social media, and then also for the students that they're teaching. Other issues in education. ELLs, definitely. And students with, we have exceptional learners. And then something relative this class are the court cases. Okay? So I just think that it's important when you're first looking at your competencies that you do an inventory because you're hired because you're an expert in your discipline. So you get to negotiate and determine the context, the major concepts you're going to teach students so that they can meet that competency. And so you want to think of all the different areas and then which ones are most relevant to my students, are interesting to me, can I get resources for to teach the students to make sure that this content is taught to them in a 16-week period or an 8-week period, whatever it is. So I'm going to show you what I came up with when I was looking at this competency. So this, I just call this a course inventory. I think it's a great practice to do when you're first designing or you're redesigning a course. It's to take each of your course competencies and to create a grid somewhat like this, after you've combined the ones that need to go together. So for competency 3, which is the one I shared with you, these are the key concepts that I want my students to know about this. I want them to know about discrimination, social media, current issues, global citizens, and court cases. This is based on my experiences as a classroom teacher and teaching future teachers for a while, and also some current issues that are going on. Also, this should change for you over time because the world around us changes. There's new information that students need to know. For example, I took a class on white privilege this past summer, and after I took that class, I knew that I had to infuse that into my intro to education because I believe that all future teachers need to know about this. I also thought about what would be relevant to students. So when I thought about the key concepts, then I think about activities and assignments, some informal activities that would help them to process this information so that ultimately they could have 1 or 2 signature or summative assignments that will show me that they've mastered this concept. So an example that I do is I do an online discussion on social media, and it's a very controversial topic for future teachers. And the one that I choose is teachers who were in the ASU program, future teachers who were working at a preschool. They posted pictures on Facebook, and they were doing drugs. I don't know what they were doing, but ASU sent a letter to MCC's College of Education and said, you know, what do you want to do about this? Because a parent from the preschool said the girls were fired from the preschool, but she sent a letter to ASU and said that the students should be kicked out of the College of Education because they're future teachers, and now they have they're role models as future teachers, and they should be kicked out of the program at ASU. So they sent a letter to MCC asking us what we were going to do. And it definitely is a discussion point for our future teachers. So I came up with an in-class activity and an online discussion to help them start thinking about this current issue. It wasn't one of my high-stakes assignment, but something to help them to build understanding for how current issues, legal and ethical concerns are going to affect them in their new role. Then I also, as I'm thinking about the key concepts that I want to teach, I start to gather resources that are highly relevant, a little bit more current, open, free resources that I can embed into my class so that this stuff is more comprehensible. So what I'm going to ask you to do for a couple minutes is think about, or to maybe look at your competencies, write down one of them that you teach, and which key concepts would you teach for that competency. And if you want to list some assignments and activities or some signature summative assessments, you can do that as well. Just take about 5 minutes and think about your own course. Yes?
For the signature assignments, like 1 or 2 for each competency, I see you have 2 up there. What's
yeah.
for that?
I don't have a lot of, I would say like for each, I'm going to show you how I map the whole course next.
Okay.
So for the whole course, maybe one signature assignment for every major unit.
Okay.
Other than that, they're just small assignments or participation points in class.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have you gone through Gold Star? No? Okay. Okay. The grant is funding. Funding one in July. It's there are 40 spaces. I don't know how full it is. It was half full last week. Yeah. It's just through education studies. No, through me. Well, through my old grant. Yeah. Yeah, Beth and Halise, we hired them to facilitate it for 4 days.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
It would be good. I need to revise my
Yeah.
courses. So
Yeah.
This is all really helpful.
It's a good program.
It's great. Yeah.
Let me give you half of these here.
So I'll ask questions. Contact Elise.
If you shoot me an email, I can send you the link.
Okay.
And there's a $100 stipend per day to participate.
It would be good for me to do that.
Yeah.
You can choose one course to do.
Yeah, to work on.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're so good though, Beth and Halise.
Do you remember the date?
June 13th through the 16th. Do you want to make one for a math course?
The problem is I don't know any competencies at all.
Oh, you don't? Do you have a device with you or no?
No, I don't have a smartphone, that's the thing.
Oh.
I've never had a smartphone, I only have this regular one.
Okay.
So if someone could, maybe, could you show me the competencies for the math?
You know what? I can pull them up for you.
Okay, that'd be better.
I'll show you. And then you could just choose one to take a look at here.
Well, looks like we're good. Why don't you take a look at, I think, math, what's it, 220 or something?
Yeah, 220, 221. There you go. So there are 10 competencies for that course. So you would choose one of those and then write down what are the key concepts that a student would need to know to be able to meet that competency. Okay? And I'm going to give you about 2 minutes on this, and I'm going to show you another mapping strategy that you can use. Were you able to write down a competency?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move us forward because we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to just look at this, how you would do what's called a course map. And I'm going to show you how we could do this with just Post-it notes with the same type of an idea. These are tools, and I would encourage you to choose one that you like, some style to start mapping out your course. So this is my course map for that class there, for EDU 221 Intro to Education. So I took the competencies for that course and I chunked them together as needed. And then for the competencies, I came up with themes or units that became my units for the course. So I have, these are my major themes or units that I'm teaching. And you can see the numbers there. Those are the competencies that I cover in each of those units, okay? So I have we call those modules when we're designing courses, modules or units. For each module, I have key concepts, which is what you were thinking about now. So you were thinking about the key concepts for the competencies you're teaching. So if I have competencies 1 and 7 embedded in this teaching in a changing world, the key concepts based on those competencies are my current events, my NCES statistics, and I think that says field experience. So those are key concepts that are based on the competencies for that course. For each of those, I can then break down and consider the activities that my students are going to do so that they can make meaning of the content to understand those key concepts. What are the signature assignments that are kind of those heavy weighted so that I can say overall, this is what they've learned for the course or for a particular competency. And then what are the resources that students would need to have access to be able to make meaning of that content. So I put some Post-it notes around at your tables, and I'm going to give you time to think about, maybe just keep focusing on one competency unless you're very familiar and you already have themes for your course, and start to map out those key concepts, resources, and materials. The same idea as what you were doing on paper, but see if you can do it visually. I will give you a poster paper as well, and if you want to make connections or write anything on it, you can do that also for your map. Then I'm going to give you another element to consider, especially because you're designing a hybrid course. As you start to map out your course, you want to negotiate after a while what makes sense to put online. Because in a hybrid class, you are reducing their seat time. An error that we have sometimes when we design hybrid courses is we create 1.5 courses. Because we already did the face-to-face class, and now we think, oh, now they have to do all of this stuff online. You want to move your face-to-face stuff that's reasonable and put that online. So as you're mapping out your course with your Post-its, your key concepts, consider, and I have some guiding questions here for you. Are there going to be things that you do to preview what you do in class? to review? Is there extended learning? Is there something that you can take away from the face-to-face environment that you can move online? And if you're visual and you want to use these, I have little computer icons that you can stick onto your map so that you can have a nice visual for what your course might look like. Okay? Questions? You good? Have fun. I'll turn some music on so you can get creative in here. So we also have the condition, which is what you're going to provide using the quadratic formula in groups, using an advanced reading organizer. And then the degree of mastery is what you are going to accept the students to say that they've mastered that goal. So when we've written objectives before, most objectives have an audience behavior. Two components that may be new to you are to provide a condition and the degree of mastery. This one is so important when we're looking at formative assessments for students and for yourself to justify that students met the competency, because it may not be for you 100% accuracy. It could be a score on a rubric or something over time for you to say that they have met that competency. So let's actually look at this in a little more detail. The backside of your handout takes you through the process for writing ABCD objectives. Typically, the condition comes first when you write them using this method. I would encourage you, if you're not familiar with writing learning objectives, that you use this to get familiar with the process, and then, you don't have to be this structured down the road. So example here, this is just a formula. So we have using Bloom's taxonomy. The workshop participants will be able to identify and write an observable and measurable learning objective with 80% accuracy using the ABCD method. So my condition, we're saying using Bloom's taxonomy. You must use these verbs. My participants, my audience are my participants. The behavior is measurable. We're going to identify and write. This document I want to show you, and you'll have access to these. After Camp InspirED ends, we're going to create a Canvas course. It's actually available. You just have to upload these resources. But you'll have access to a few tools. So I'm going to share these with you that can all help you in your course design. This is we call it a conceptual framework. We probably need to change the title of that because conceptual frameworks really should be in your brain, not on a piece of paper. But we call it this. So this is an example of a module level framework. So our module level objectives. So for this module that I had shown you on my big course map, I had legal perspectives on education. And in that module, we covered 2 competencies. For those 2 competencies, I had 5 learning objectives. And then you can see how these learning objectives are mapped below. So you have your learning objective. Learning objective 1 covers course competency 3. The materials and activities, there was a DQ, education in the news, and a rubric, and the assessment was a discussion. So again, just another way for you to just kind of organize and think about, what am I teaching? How am I being explicit what I'm teaching so that my students know? And I actually put this in my course. So at the beginning of every module, my students have this so they understand why they're learning what they're learning. Every assignment is intentional, and it goes back to a competency that I'm teaching. You'll have a blank one of these that you're welcome to use if you want to map out your course. Some other tools that you may be interested in that will be in the folder. So something to think about as you start to map out your course, negotiate the time. This is just like kind of an old school strategy that I use. I would print out just a regular old calendar for the semester, and it's a pacing calendar. So once I identified I was going to have 8 modules in my course, I looked at the quantity of assignments and how long I thought it would take students to complete those, and would map out a pacing calendar so that I knew what I was going to teach at what time. So my major themes or modules, for every module that I had, I always had a chapter quiz that was due on Sundays. Just kind of not all of the nitty details for your students, just a kind of an overview for you for planning. And then again, if you want to provide this to your students, it can help to keep them on track. I think it's so good if students know the basic structure of your course. They don't necessarily need to know the details, but they know for every unit that I'm teaching, there will be a discussion, a reading assignment, and a quiz, something like this, so that they can plan ahead to negotiate what type of a grade they want to get in your class. These are even more details that you can consider as you become more familiar with your course and the assignments that you do. I taught and designed a course. It was a high school outreach tutoring course. The high school students wanted to know, because they didn't understand how to take an online course, much like some of our community college students, how many minutes in the week is it going to take me to finish this course? So you'll have a blank one of these also that you can access. The way that I had designed this was for each module, I listed the assignments, the due day. I never put dates on these documents because I want to use it every semester and I don't want to be updating my materials. So my assignments are always due on day 3, which for me that was Wednesday. Doesn't matter what Wednesday it is in the semester. And then the approximate time to complete the assignment and the points possible. Again, this is a really nice big picture for your students so that they know what the expectations are for the course from the beginning. You can't do this if this is your first time teaching the course because it's going to take you a semester to figure out all these details or 2, but you could refine and chisel down to this level of detail. And then finally, another resource that you'll have, so you'll have a link here to the CTL website. There's a page on our website that will take you to just another overview on designing an online course, some more details, some summaries on how you might map this out, and a really good resource if you decide to use Canvas. There's an export file down here. Where is it? Let's see. Right here. So it's a Start Here template module. If you want to click on this, it will take you to a Canvas course that you can access. Oh, you can't see what I can see. I don't know why. Anyhow, let me see if I can minimize this and at least show you. What do you see now? Here we go. Nope, that wasn't it. Here. Okay, so I went to the, I clicked on that link. It took me to the CTL website. I click here, and it takes me to this Canvas course. This is a great tool for any new instructor or for if you want to refine your Getting Started module, your home page. It will show you what the template includes, and it will set up the basic parameter of your course, all of the tutorials for how students use Canvas. It gives you prompts for introducing yourself and the framework for what your course looks like, and then you can go on and build the rest of the course. Okay? So all of those links are in the PowerPoint that you will get from Camp InspirED. And we are just about finished. That's about our time here. CTL events. There is a CTL calendar, so you'll have a link to that. We offer workshops throughout the semester in the summer if you'd like to join us. The eVenture program, there's a link here to this if you'd like to sign up for the spring cohort. We are offering department workshops this year, and then we also do one-on-one consultation if you want to work on your courses.